Stocks, only on ET Now.
₹22,000 crore. That's how much money IIT and IIM graduate S. Nareen is responsible for as the head of equities at ICICI Prudential Asset Management. He is directly responsible for nearly a quarter of that cash pile, and a team of fund managers reporting to him oversee the balance. It's a tough job, and that's where wisdom comes in. Nareen has nearly 20 years of experience in equities and has worked in several organizations like Refco City Securities, HDFC Securities and Yoha Securities. But it's not been all work and no play all the way. Nareen is a passionate bridge player and knows how to keep a balanced hand. So what has the game of bridge taught him about investing and markets?
It's all about probabilities, and markets are about probabilities. And I later learned that Warren Buffett also plays a lot of bridge, and maybe it helps him to think of the world of probabilities that markets are about.
So how are you reacting to the volatility that we're seeing in the market right now?
Markets being volatile is not as bad as what people think, because the market is full of traders. It is the traders who get hurt by volatility. And actually funds benefit out of volatility.
The other aspect about a volatile market is taking contrarian calls. How do you decide or take a contrarian call? And more importantly, how do you safeguard yourself against the risk of that call going wrong?
When you buy something on a contrarian view, what you'll have to do is you'll have to do much better research, because you're not with the people, you're against the people. So in 2010, when we bought telecom, people were very scared. How could we think that telecom was not risky? But when we looked around and we found out that the leader not making money in a sector like telecom is actually a good buy signal. And we saw experiences like that in many other parts of the world. We got the confidence to actually buy telecom in 2010. And so periodically what happens is it will test you. But contrarian investing, the advantages for us to buy is very easy, because you're buying when everyone else is a seller. So it's just that you have to do the right research, and we have big teams. So we actually put 2 people on the job, try to look at the pros and cons of every investing that we do on a contrarian basis, discuss it out. That helps us to take a bigger position.
Right, but what if you do not see your call playing out the way you expected it? Are you brave enough to say, it's not working out for us, so exit midway? Is the time horizon as well allocated to it?
So it does happen. For example, if you see the oil marketing companies, they have been contrarian calls all the way from 2004. But somewhere in 2006-07, we realized that this is a sector which has become a value trap, because it is impossible for us to understand how the subsidy issue will be handled. And we went through a period in 2004 to 6 where we actually saw a value trap in a few stocks. Then after that, we actually decided to sell on and move on, because we found that it is no longer a value or a contra play. It became a value trap. And how we evaluate a value trap is by looking and seeing whether at least across cycles we are able to get returns. And as such, we can't wait and say, okay, we'll wait till 2020. We don't do that, because we run open-end funds.
Right. One more aspect is that at this point in time, given the volatility, what would be a contrarian theme that you would want to pick up over the last 6 months, let's say?
See, a contrarian theme we actually invested in many of our funds in the last quarter of 2011 was actually metals. What we liked about metals was most of the stocks had come below book. Most of the leaders in the steel space, in the aluminium space, in the non-ferrous space, they had all become below book. And for us, that was an indication, and there was no new capacity coming up in India, because once the leaders are available below book, no capex happens in the industry. So we actually picked up a good weightage in many of our funds, and that played out beautifully in January, February. I mean, today I won't say it was a contrarian call. Now, for example, our technology sector has been derated significantly in the last 1 month. If you look at the sector, it's one of the biggest beneficiaries of a trade deficit going up. The sector has become ex-growth. People already know the guidance of some other companies. They know that the guidance is very low. So today we've actually added tech substantially in the month of April, because we feel that it's a contrarian call where there's good valuation support, you have good quality corporate governance, and you are in a sector which is likely to do well sometime in the future, because without technology you can't handle the Indian economy.
How do you avoid value traps, quote unquote, in the market?
See, what we do is we look at the return on equity of the company over a period of time. We look at the price to book of a company over a period of time. We get a good indication. When we look at these two trends over a period of time, for example, when we looked at textile, we found that it's a sector you have to buy really cheap and sell cheap. Because at the end of the day, over a long period of time, it doesn't deliver returns. We didn't lose any money in the airline industry, but that's also a sector where you buy cheap and sell when it is, you have to buy very cheap and sell cheap. Because these are sectors where the ROE to price to book, if you look at both ROE and price to book, you find that the ROE keeps coming down. And you have to sell it when they're reasonable.
So you're looking at the ROE in conjunction to the price to book of a particular stock while deciding?
Yeah. We look at both these separately. For example, in cyclical stocks, we have found that earnings hardly help. And we found that whenever we have invested in stocks looking at price to earnings, we have actually got hurt. And whenever we have looked at price to book, we have actually gained.
Okay, that's a fair point. Defensives in this market, expensive stocks, but important to de-risk your portfolio, and that's why they're defensives. How are you approaching these two sectors, especially in the kind of volatility that we're seeing right now?
See, if you look at the four defensives in India, I would say one is consumer staples. Then you have got healthcare, you've got technology, and got utilities. What we have done is, because the Indian trade deficits have been high and the current account deficits have gone up significantly, what we have done is we have actually decided to bet on the defensives which are export oriented, which is technology and healthcare. And we have been underweight the other two sectors which are defensive, consumer staples and utilities. Consumer staples are trading at record valuations. And somehow, we have found that when you buy a sector at record valuations, you normally don't make money in the long run. We have stayed away, but again, the sector keeps getting re-rated and confounds me.
Naren, you must have been often asked what drives you to buy a stock, but I'm more inquisitive in understanding what is it that triggers you to sell a stock or offload a stock from your portfolio?
See, actually, when we get redemptions, we do sell stocks for redemption reason. Otherwise, the way we look at it, because we are running portfolios, we look at a decision not in the context of the selling decision. We look at a sell-buy decision. Suppose we were selling X and buying Y. We ask ourselves, it's something, would we do it? So, for example, take a sector like metals or banks. When technology underperformed in the last 1 month, we sold some banks and bought technology. The decision was to buy technology. But the decision to buy technology, we had to sell something. We said, okay, in an atmosphere where, you had a rate cut and the sector actually went up, we thought it's good to actually sell banks and buy technology.
Well, Naren, we'll talk more about that in just a bit. In fact, discuss Naren's specific fund philosophy, so stay tuned for that.
Opportunity comes knocking every minute on ET Now. ET Now gives you more stock ideas from the best technical analysts every day and talks to the management of the most promising companies. Breaking stories that impact your investments. Make every opportunity a profit opportunity from 8 to 10:30 a.m. only on ET Now.
महिंद्रा नाविस्टार बदल रहा है भारतीय ट्रकिंग को। 4,500 ट्रक्स ने छोड़ा 8 करोड़ किलोमीटर्स पे अपना निशान। देश भर में 1001 सर्विस पॉइंट्स का भरोसा। 4 साल की असीमित माइलेज वारंटी ने विश्वास बढ़ाया। महिंद्रा नाविस्टार, जारी है सिलसिला भारतीय ट्रकिंग को बदलने का।
If experience counts the most, Rajat Bose's analysis can reap you the richest dividends. Get the most accurate predictions from the charts veteran on Buy Now, Sell Now, only on ET Now.
Well, welcome back. We are still in conversation with S. Naren of ICICI Pru AMC at Dublin at the ITC Grand Central in Mumbai. Naren, let's talk about your funds, starting off with ICICI Pru Discovery, which is a value-oriented fund. Now, I was just looking at your divergent position on two sectors. One is healthcare and one is FMCG. In healthcare, you're 4 times overweight than what the index has in terms of weightage. In FMCG, you're fairly underweight to the benchmark. Why is that?
See, actually the value fund is a fund where we look at the benchmark, but basically what we do is we actually try to see which are the sectors where there's a lot of value. Today consumer is trading at record high valuations, so we don't see any value stocks in that field which is significant. So we have a very small weightage in the consumer staples space. Whereas when we mix our view that exporters are going to do well, and you see much more stable valuations in the healthcare space, we thought that this is a sector which has a very, very good outlook. At the same time, its valuations are much more reasonable. So that's why we have a high weightage in our value fund.
You know, across your funds, and this is not specific to only Discovery, I've seen that financials has an underweight compared to the benchmark. Now, given the fact that over the last 3 months, we've seen a lot of global funds also look at rate sensitives, particularly financials in the Asian region, is it a conscious call to stay away or go a bit light on the sector?
See, as far as our value fund is concerned, what we learned from the 2008 experience in the global side was that a value fund should not be very, very highly weighted in financials, because financials always tend to be cheap on price to earnings and price to book basis. But the experience of the global value funds in 2008 was that there was need to actually restrict valuations in weightages in financials as a risk management strategy. And in fact, in 2008, those value funds which had a very high weightage in financials, they self-destructed, whereas the low weightage value funds in financials actually did very well. So I think in the value fund, we have taken a conscious call that we won't have a very, very high weightage in financials, and that is part of our longer term strategy. As far as
with rates coming down also in the last 1 month, you've not looked at revising that strategy?
See, we do have, it is still one of the big weightages in the market in our portfolios. But at the same time, when we look at it, what we see globally is that till your fiscal deficits and current account deficits come down, financials are a play on the economy. There are two things that people look at. One is they look at the banking, that particular company's financials. The second, they look at the financials of the country. The financials of the country is measured by current account and fiscal deficit, which have been deteriorating over the last 3-4 years. So that has held us to this view rather than a specific view on an individual bank or anything like that.
Okay, one of your top 5 holdings is a large cap private oil and gas company, where there hasn't been too much in terms of a stock price movement, and also there's not been too much in terms of an earnings visibility, but you still hold the stock in your top 5 holdings. Why so?
See, what we do in a cyclical stock is we try to see whether the margins are below trend or above trend. Today, for example, if you see the sector, you'll find that both petrochemical and refining margins are all at record lows at this point of time. So that gives us one comfort. The second comfort we always look at is if there is a company which is pursuing buyback, we always treat it as a positive, because we believe that as fund managers, we know less about the company than what the management does through the buyback. So we actually always are more positive on stocks where there's a buyback happening and less positive on stocks where there's a lot of dilution happening.
What about value picks in autos? Because, you know, when I take a look at your holdings, barring for the one four-wheeler player, which has, of course, generated enormous returns from the start of the year to now, and is being favored commonly by the market, I do not see any other holdings from the auto pack.
See, our view has always been that there was a infrastructure cycle between 2004 to 7. There's been a consumption cycle from 2008 to 11. And we have to see either an export cycle or an infrastructure cycle happen. For an infrastructure cycle to happen, we need to see lower interest rates. We need to see a contraction in fiscal deficit. So in our opinion, till we see that contraction in fiscal and current account deficits, we decided to bet on exporters. And we believe that the consumption cycle has already played out for the last 4 years. So we've been underweight consumption stocks across most of the portfolios.
Okay, let's talk about ICICI Pru Dynamic, another interesting theme. But what I've seen is that over the last 6 months, your focus has shifted to holding more large caps in the fund versus a multi-cap approach earlier. Is that to